Hey, Ryan, welcome back on the show. As a way of giving everybody an update, what's new?
Not much. Just started my day with a chocolate croissant.
Yeah.
That's what's new. But yeah, a lot new for me, especially on the professional front, and excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
What was the impetus to switch companies and roles?
Yeah. So I just left after 5 years at G2.com. And I think the real impetus was the need to get back to building something. I joined G2 at the seed stage, and they offered me so much from learning and growing, promotions. The company grew incredibly, and that was a great journey. But what I enjoyed most was the early days, the grinding, being the underdog, having to get really creative. That's what I feel like I'm very good at. So wanted to build a company again and left to join TryNow.
And what do they do?
TryNow is software for direct-to-consumer brands, and it helps them automate try before you buy programs.
Cool. And who do you sell to? Who within the companies? What percent?
Yeah, we sell to, a lot of these direct-to-consumer brands, they could be doing 100 million in revenue and only have 100 people. So we're selling to the top. We're selling to CEOs. We're selling to CMOs. But marketing and e-commerce managers are really the folks that get this the most.
Cool. And are you building out a team now, I take it?
Yes, I am. So I joined as the first sales hire, the VP of sales. I just helped us get our first 30 customers. And now we're bringing on SDRs, we're bringing on AEs, and we're going to scale a sales team.
And what's that like? I'm sure the market must be a little tight.
Yeah, it's really tight.
Is that a genius observation or what?
Yeah, you've got it nailed. It's hard, especially in Silicon Valley. You're competing with the budgets of Salesforce, and you're competing with the cafeteria at LinkedIn. Yeah. These companies, they offer everything, especially to young salespeople, and it's really enticing. It's shiny. It's something that is definitely hard to compete with. But what I saw firsthand at G2, if you're a risk taker, if you see the upside, if you want to sit next to the CEO, that's the type of experience you can get at a seed stage company. So that's what I'm leading with. Right.
And I think that's the fun part. Being the 50th SDR isn't exactly, breaking new ground, right?
Yeah, that's right. You'll get lost in the shuffle unless you're a beast. You're definitely going to get lost in the shuffle.
Now, you have a kind of interesting background. You took writing in college. Has that helped you in sales?
Yeah. I call myself an email craftsman because I think that, and also a cold calling craftsman, because you have to start from somewhere, whether it's an email or a cold call. You have to prepare yourself for what you're going to say. And if you can get your words out, if you can get your thoughts on paper, you'll be a lot more prepared when you do deliver that email or that call. And creative writing has been really helpful for me, especially in sales.
Yeah, because sales is kind of a creative profession. If you're not creative, then you're kind of a robot and somebody that people really don't want to talk to.
Yeah. Creative writing for me, I think it made me weird. And that's something that I think is a differentiator for me. I am very weird. I get on the phone, I tell people what I had for breakfast. Of course, I'm really professional when I need to be. But if you can catch somebody in a good mood or get them in a good mood and at least deliver some excitement to them, you're going to be a lot more effective when you do deliver your pitch.
That's it, because I think too often reps are just calling to check in, and the client only wants to talk to you if they want something or they enjoy talking to you. And go figure, if you're enjoyable to talk to, you don't have to be their friend, but you can be creative and interesting and engaging without having to, build a 5-year relationship with them. And
It's
if you are
exactly right.
enjoyable to talk to, they will talk with you.
Yeah. And in same way that I'm crafting emails, I'm crafting cold calls, I would encourage people to think about, what their rapport building is before they get on the phone.
Yeah.
Don't ask somebody where they are. You know where they are. Look at their LinkedIn. You know where their company's based. It's crazy to me when people say, "Where are you based?" It shows that you did no research. And so if you spend 5 minutes before the call just thinking about what you're going to say in the first 5 minutes of the call, the rest of it will be much smoother, and you'll be more confident.
Yeah, because I think
And you'll sound less, like you ask the same question on every call. Hey, where are you based? What's the weather like? And
yeah.
it's brutal, really. Brutal truth.
There you go. Now, in your journey through sales, did you have particular epiphanies where you were like, oh, now I get it. Now you were better. Now you got to the next level and you kind of saw distinctions?
Every day. No. I would say every so often. Sales is it's such an up and down battle. Even high level salespeople, executives, VPs, enterprise reps, everyone goes through these phases of self-doubt and wallowing in frustration. And you have to remember that when you do have one of those epiphanies, like I had one yesterday, my personalized emails, it was instant reply from people. And I was 2 for 2 on this new email that I crafted. And just remembering those moments and getting really excited about them, to me is kind of what's important in sales. And I've had many of those throughout my career.
Yeah, because I still have them, and it might not be life shattering, but it's like all of a sudden the lights start going on and things start to make sense. You're pulling apart the onion and you're getting to the core of really what is a great salesperson and why are they different, and how do you put words to why they're different instead of, oh, they're lucky or charming or whatever, hardworking. I mean, you can't do much with that, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the people that, continue to see success are the ones that keep refining their approach, and they don't get too frustrated when they're low. They don't get too excited when they're high. Except I get very excited when we're closing deals, when we're getting people on the phone. But I think it's the people that continue to innovate and then do more when they find success. Yesterday I spent a lot of time personalizing subject lines by putting their company name, and I realized it was getting okay response. And then yesterday I started putting their product name in the subject line, and it's just like 50% increases across the board and something like that. And now go iterate on that. I think that's what makes really top performers continue to succeed.
Yeah. Now, when you took your improv course, was that a game changer for you, or was it just another training class?
Yeah. Improv was, I encourage anybody to go take it up, because even the folks that were the most shy in the beginning ended up being the most funny and the most successful. Yeah. Someone like me, I was kind of a class clown. I always loved to be on stage. I didn't mind any of that. So I was really good in the beginning. And then all of these other people caught up to me and realized that it's not, you don't really want to write anything out in improv. You want to really do it on the fly. Right. And so I think once I accepted that piece of it and started to bring that into my sales, I really started to see an improvement. I would do all this preparation for my meetings, and then I'm just like over prepared, and I want to get in my point so bad that I prepared, but really I just need to have a few questions ready. I need to have my intro ready, my closer, and then from there it's improv.
It is. I mean, selling is improv, whether you admit it or not, or if you don't roll with that, then it becomes very stiff. It turns into just on-premise or a real-time presentation that they could have got on YouTube. Right.
But don't take that for lack of preparation, because preparation is, I mean, especially in enterprise sales, high volume sales is a little bit more improvisational, but, enterprise sales is about preparation and just really understanding your client's needs. And so don't take improv as a reason not to do a ton of preparation.
Right, because it's the performance, it's a game day, right? And I think the preparation is the practice. Before you go in the field, you want to have the practice, but when you're on the field, you're playing,
That's
and
right.
you have to perform.
Analogy.
And like, if you're an actor, you have to get into that role. You can think about it all you want. You can even practice it all you want, but the only performance that matters is that day on stage.
That's exactly right.
What do you see as, like the top 3 differentiators between the people who really get sales and those who just, show up and do the job?
Good question. Differentiators, I think, let me think about that. One of the differentiators, and you sometimes just have to curl your toes or bite your lip and just wait and think. And it might seem awkward, but you're coming up with a better answer. And so I think great salespeople have the ability to pause. And since the advent of Gong and Chorus, these sales recording softwares, I've been able to train my team on this, because I feel like I do it on my calls, and I'm able to show them, this was a 10-second pause. I get asked all the time, you still there? Especially if it's not a video call. And it's great. I'll say, yeah. And then I'll just sit. And when you sit in this silence, the customer will tell you everything. Yeah. So the best salespeople, in my opinion, have the ability to sit within silence.
Yeah.
Hard work and determination, I think those are table stakes, but there is a type of salesperson, a high performer, that wants something so bad, whether that's the money, the recognition, the improvement. And I think each salesperson is motivated differently. I know in my career, I'm always motivated by recognition. I want to be at the top. I want my name at the top of the leaderboard. And so the salespeople who are the best, they have something that they are striving for, and they'll do anything. They'll do anything for that.
So, recognition, what I read out of that was competition, competitiveness, winning, whether it's winning internally or winning against a competitor.
I got my ass kicked my whole life by my brother. Every sport, every game we've ever played. And so I think mine was less about winning, and it was just, how can I not lose? I will not lose to him. Like it became visceral. It became in my bones. I hated losing. And I got that from getting my ass kicked.
Now, just 2 of you?
2 younger sisters as well. So I have an older brother and 2 younger sisters.
Okay. So middle child.
Oh yeah. Always fighting for attention. I think that's why, that's why maybe recognition is my thing. And I think all salespeople should figure out what is it that motivates them and strive for that, and also having a higher purpose. My higher purpose is I want to give back to my dad and my mom. They spent so much time giving me everything as a kid. They ended up losing a lot of it. And so now I spend my time, how can I get to this point where I can make their lives easier?
Yeah. I think those 2 things, a higher purpose that's not you, and finding your motive and building that into your daily routine, because when I'm tired and just want to crash, I know exactly what will turn me on. If I look at one of my competitors and all of a sudden I'm fired up, it's like a cup of coffee, right?
I love that. Yeah, exactly. You got to have, especially in those down moments, like you said, you have to have something to look to. It's like, why am I here?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm here because I want to make more money for my family, or I'm here because I want to be a sales leader in the future. Like whatever that is for you, write it down, put a little sticky note on your monitor, and just remember that.
Yeah, I remember I had a sales engineer come visit me, and we were out partying that night, and I asked him where he felt I ranked versus the other salespeople. He goes, "You go probably number 2." And I go, "Who's number 1?" And it was like the guy he focuses on most of the time. I go, "No way." He goes, "Yeah, he's a better rep than you." I mean, my blood was boiling, and I placed a bet. It was like this, these rollerblades that we both wanted. I go, whoever wins the most, does the most revenue this year, wins a new set of rollerblades. And I
Yep.
worked more for those $300 rollerblades than I did for the commission check.
Totally. I've always said that spiffs should be physical items. A money spiff is essentially nothing. It does not motivate people. Folks are more motivated by a Bluetooth speaker than they are by $500. It's human psychology. They need something to look at.
Yes.
And something to strive for. So I love gambling too, which means sales is a good profession for me. It's high stakes, it's high risk, and I just need to find someone to bet some rollerblades now.
That's all. Wish they were back in style. How about like the dips? I'm sure you've lived through a few of those.
Oh yeah, of course. I relish the dips. I put it in a cup and drink it. Not anything, not alcohol, but put that down period and just accept it. And, I've gone through many bouts with myself where I have said, this is a horrible period for me. I'm not selling a lot, or I'm just not getting it. And I've just accepted that. And sometimes you need a break too. You've worked so hard, and then you're like, why am I not motivated? Why can't I get a sale? And you just have to say, I'm going to let this run. I mean, don't let it run for more than a few days or a week, but you let that run, and then you have to come back even stronger. And so you just, accept it, drink it, and be appreciative of the ups and downs.
And I think if you can just, talk yourself through it, that the meaning of it isn't that it's permanent, that it's temporary. Because a lot of people listening haven't gone through a recession. And I've been through more than I care to remember. I mean, even if you do remember the 2009 recession, compared to what it's like today, when you're trying to sell in a recession, where long periods of time, 18 months of hard times.
Yeah.
But
it's tough.
Now that you're hiring a lot of reps, I don't know how many you hired back at G2, but what do you look for?
Good question. I've built the document that has the different characteristics that I'm looking for. And I'll pull it up here to read off a few of the things. But the first thing I'm looking for is coachability, especially in a more junior sales role. Someone who's an SDR, or they've been an SDR for a couple of years, junior AE, whatever it is. I'm looking for somebody that will try, and then when I give them feedback, they'll try again and they'll do it differently. And so I role play on first interviews all the time. I'll ask them to pitch me. I'll say, hey, what do you think you did well? What could you do better? I'll then give them 2 pieces of feedback, something they did well, something they could do better, and then they'll do it again. And if they improve and they change it, that's a huge bonus for me, and that's something that I'm looking for.
How about as far as background, either education, sports, music, any particular correlations that you find effective?
LinkedIn, to me, says a lot about somebody.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my early days as a rep treating my LinkedIn like a living resume. And if somebody's putting content on there, they're posting, they show their extracurriculars. That means they care, and that means they care enough to work hard in a sales role. Especially when you don't have a ton of experience, fill that with your volunteer work, fill that with your sports, fill that with what you studied in school. Because when it's blank and there's nothing on there, that means that you're not ready for the modern sales life, which is really a LinkedIn life.
Yeah. And I'm always surprised because even when I was trying to get this list together of, I was eliciting people who felt they knew a great salesperson. Surprisingly, about 30% of them weren't active on LinkedIn. Now, it could be industries, right? Certain industries, it's not there yet, or their market isn't there. But I think there are, certain reps who the phone is my thing, in person's my thing, email's my thing. And if your market's that way, that's great. But if your market's not that way, you're kind of late to the game. And I think a lot of people, I saw this happen, because in the 90s, the phone, you just cooked on the phone, right? And then all of a sudden in the 2000s came, if you could do email, but back then the problem was finding email addresses because, the internet was in the early stages. Your email address was like your phone number, you couldn't find it. So you had to guess and things like that. You could just cook. I could get a whole week booked in 4 hours. But then, around this past decade, LinkedIn, I just cook, right?
Yep.
If you're good on LinkedIn and your market's on LinkedIn, and you are just booked solid.
Yeah, you need to adapt to what your audience or where your audience is spending a lot of their time.
Yeah.
If you have a great list of cell phone numbers, hit the phones. But if digitally your customers are spending a lot of time on LinkedIn, you have to be on LinkedIn. I'm selling to direct-to-consumer brands. These folks are a lot more social on Twitter and Instagram than they are on LinkedIn. And that's never been a place. I'm okay on Twitter. I know I use Instagram, but I've never prospected on it. I've never spent time building a professional brand there. So I'm trying to adapt now. And I think that's super key as a salesperson, as a sales leader, to adapt to where your audience is.
Yeah. And even if you just use it as a research tool, to build your target list and prioritize your target list and find out what they're talking about and what they care about, and and build that into a conversation instead of a pitch.
Absolutely.
What challenges are you running into in building out your team other than finding good people?
In terms of building out the team, I would say, finding people is tough. Finding people with limited resources. So we've really taken a conscious effort to self-source and not use recruiters.
Yeah.
We tried to use a couple of recruiters. We tried to outsource. I was burned by both. The recruiting thing, I think we can fine tune, but outsourcing, we tried to outsource a BDR team to a company that promised us the world. And I said, if everything you're telling me right now is true, we're all going to be really well off. And your business, you should be a unicorn because you're telling me we're going to go from X to Y within a year. And I was super excited about it, but they were not prepared. I didn't think they could do a better job than we were already doing as one person. And we fired them within a week. So The challenge has just been fine tuning how we're going to scale this thing. We need somebody to come in here. We need the hungriest person in San Francisco Bay Area to come in here and start working with us.
Cool.
And finding that person is super tough.
It is. Are you open to remote people not in San Francisco? Is that?
We're open to it. The cost. The other really difficult thing we're running into is the cost for an SDR in San Francisco. you could have 2 SDRs in Chicago and two in Denver, 2 in Salt Lake City. Like, the cost for the level of talent is shocking.
Yeah.
And it's because these enterprise software companies are paying for it.
Yeah. Cool. How about,
so we're open to it. It's not the most ideal situation for us. We want to build a high powered team here. And I think for competition, for culture, we need people here in San Francisco.
Yeah. Now, was there ever something in your career that you were stubborn about, that when you just let it go, either a belief or a skill or a mindset or a viewpoint on either how to sell, or, because I've had a lot of those.
Another good question.
You still there?
Yeah, I'm here. I think when I stopped doubting myself, or at least when I shorten the doubt cycle, like if you have a bad call, or salespeople, I think are very self-critical, and because it's a show, it's all public. It's happening live. It's now being recorded. Right. You're in front of a lot of people. You could be with your CEO. You could be with your VP. It's high pressure. And so after a meeting, we're often saying to ourselves, damn, like, I could have done way better. I could have done this differently. And when I decided that after a meeting, I'm going to do what I call feedback. Yeah. And the person that you're with, you say, hey, this is one thing I think I did well, just one. And this is one thing I think I could do better. Yeah. And then they do the same for you. And when you shorten the cycle of doubt and you just do a little bit of feedback, you really start to improve, and you spend less time considering other options or doubting yourself, which is detrimental.
Yeah, that's it. I think one of the pivot points in my career was I just owned it. I assumed it was my fault if anything went wrong. Not to beat myself up, but to get myself thinking about how I could do it better. And keeping track of that in a notebook, and then having a system before each meeting, going through the things I typically would do wrong or suboptimally, right? And then boil it down to like 3 that I could write down, so that when I was in the meeting, I'd think about them. And that coachability and learning cycle, the tighter you keep that. And the B reps, I always say, oh, they don't prepare, they don't reflect, they assume it's anything but them. And it's like, how do you get better?
I love what you said about owning it.
Yeah.
With a customer, with your manager, like as a manager, something I love is when a rep just says, I messed that up. Right. I made a mistake. I forgot to email that person. I didn't do my follow-up. I didn't log that call. My bad. I'll do it the next time. No excuses. Yeah. Instead, it's just this. It's a list. It's like they have them written down. Like, I didn't do this because, right. I was thinking that it should have been. And it doesn't matter what comes after that intro. It doesn't matter. Right. Just say you messed up.
Yes. And
that's the sign of somebody who really takes ownership. And those are also the types of people that we're looking for here.
Yeah, otherwise you can't get better, right? Because you're not getting the lesson. You're touching the stove, and you're just going to touch the stove again. You didn't learn because your hand got burnt.
One thing on owning stuff, if you don't respond to a customer or internally for a day, 2 days, don't say sorry for the delay, because you could be busy too. Just respond. Just get to it now. Sorry for the delay. I was at a wedding. Like, I've seen all of these excuses sent out to customers. They don't care. No. If you think your manager doesn't care, your customers don't care. You're at a wedding. They don't care that you hurt your foot. Just respond to the email.
Yeah, cool. Hey, for those reps out there who want to follow you and maybe that super SDR in San Francisco who would like to work for you or with you, where should they go?
Yeah, best way to get in touch with me is over email, Ryan@trynow, TRYNOW.io. And the other place you can connect with me is on LinkedIn, Ryan Abramson, ABRAMSON.